So greetings from the land here, and I want to honor the beautiful custodians of this land where I am, which I'm blessed to call home, and they are the Jinibara and the Turrbal people. And it feels really appropriate to be sitting on the land as I share this piece around how we as women can be more anchored in our power and in our connection to the earth through our womb, through our root. And what inspired this sharing is that I was chatting to a client of mine this week, and she had just returned from an intensive month-long yoga teacher training program. And she shared with me that her period, which is normally like clockwork, was something like 9 days overdue. And, we ruled out pregnancy, and then something occurred to me, which is that I had a really similar experience many years ago when I went to a really intensive 3-week yoga retreat where we're practicing like a really intense discipline, traditional hatha yoga practice. And I recalled coming home and my period was really, really late. And so the link that I made and what I attribute this to is the fact that in really traditional yoga practices, there is an emphasis on the ascending energy, on the what's called the prana vayu, the direction, the current of energy that is moving in an upward direction. And so, there are all kinds of practices that support this rising energy, and one of them is moola bandha, which is root lock, which is essentially like a kind of engagement and lifting through the pelvic floor. And it's really emphasized a lot in some yoga traditions more than others. And that can actually be, if it's done often, and in this case with an intensive training or a retreat, and this regular kind of lifting up energy, is that it is not in balance with the opposite flow of energy, which is the apana vayu, the downward flowing current, which is the current that allows menstruation to happen. It's this release and letting go. And it's the same current that allows birth to happen. And I relate to this current also as like the descent of grace rather than the reaching up. So there's like a relaxation, a deep relaxation when we allow for this downward movement, which is a relaxation of the root rather than a lifting of the root. And so this can simply be practiced by consciously sensing or allowing the kind of the genitals, and I speak mostly to women, so I'll speak to the yoni, to relax and to open, and more of a spreading out through the base rather than a lifting up. Because something else that I see all the time is that there are a lot of really uptight yoga practitioners out there, and I was one of them. I was engaged in this kind of really intense, more masculine oriented practice, which kind of, I was all up here and I wasn't really in touch with I wasn't really that grounded, for one. And I was also cut off, which is why I'm a really big advocate for this downward current to be emphasized, and for the balance to return in yoga and in, I guess, our lifestyles in general that are more like the energy up in the head versus the energy moving down. And it really helps to relax the jaw and to open the mouth, because with that uptightness can come uptightness in the shoulders, uptightness in the diaphragm, anxiety, stress. And so it goes both ways as well. So when we experience either long-term stress or more acute trauma, what happens is the body does go into that gripping. So considering the fact that almost everybody has some form of history of trauma or stress, typically what's a lot more common is that there is actually a tension in the pelvic floor. And so excessive engagement, whether it's through Kegels, which a lot of women are given that exercise, or yoga practitioners doing the moola bandha and emphasizing that, is that it is often only adding to tension. And so it's adding to tension that already exists. And as I was beginning to share before, is that there is this opening that happens physically and energetically when there's a relax and a dropping down, like an actual allowing of gravity. There is this opening between the body and the earth, and especially as women, because we have a hollow organ right here in the center of the pelvis, the womb. And if the womb isn't present, there's still an energetic space here that exists. Of course, it's the space from which we shed when we bleed or when we menstruate. And it's also the space from which we can birth not only babies, but any creative seed or project that we gestate and then birth into the world. So this allowing of the apana vayu is essential for the health of a menstrual cycle. The capacity to relax, to let go, and to bring through into the world whatever we are inspired to create. And we have this possibility of being deeply supported and nourished by the shakti, the energy of the earth. So this immense resource, she is immense, becomes available to us because we're not sealing in and cutting off from her. And it's her, it's the feminine who has been suppressed. And then this is, prevalent in yoga as well, despite most practitioners being women. And for a lot of women, there can be a cessation of the menstrual cycle, similarly with, ballet dancers or gymnasts, because of this intense discipline that actually overrides her natural cycles and rhythms. So I wanted to share that because I see all the time, and I feel some sadness when I see that so many women are cut off from not only their own personal power and shakti and all the beautiful swirling energy and creative power and wisdom from this space, and from the earth, and from the peace actually that comes with being grounded and connected, and the power, the uprising that then comes, naturally when there's the relaxation and spreading down. Then also there's this arising up of that powerful, so sometimes fiery, really passionate, fertile shakti coming up. And that's ultimately an ecstatic current that can circulate through our body, that we can bring up into our heart, and then really allowing that to be what feeds and nurtures this, spiritual connection with the above. But without this this rooted connection to the mother, then we're really, really limited, in fact. So I'm going to be teaching all of these things really in depth in the Shakti Yoga teacher training that's coming up starting 29th of March. And I'm also running a 5-week course in Brisbane soon. So if you're local to me, I would really love to share that with you. And do drop into the comments any questions or insights you've had from this conversation.